Welcome to Between Two Molars, an open conversation of the wins, setbacks, and messy middle of business ownership. A new kind of podcast that pulls back the curtain. No fluff, real conversations, real lessons, and the real life of running an orthodontic practice. So sit back between two molars and let's get into it. Welcome to Between Two Molars, the space where real orthodontic conversations happen.
I'm Diana Weaver.
And I'm Michelle Shimmin. Together, we're diving into the real life challenges, wins, and wisdom from inside orthodontic practices.
So grab your coffee and get comfortable. It's time to talk between two molars.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks. I'm really excited about this topic. So I'd like to talk a little bit about how do we communicate some of our financial key performance indicators within the team to really elevate the team as a whole and generate some ownership versus I just clock in and clock out. That's really powerful to us as advisors to making sure that we're creating leaders within the practice, that they have a pretty thorough understanding of what that financial health is. However, it can be a little scary to doctors to communicate, your production numbers, your collection numbers. How does the team receive that information? And do they really understand all that goes into the behind the scenes pieces with overhead cost?
I think that that's actually the topic that's most important. Most of the time, the doctors are very fearful and want to protect that information. Now, when we talk about this, I'm not talking about opening up, too much information by any means, but I am here to challenge the doctors to open up a little bit more, because if we keep everything so close to our chest, we are actually creating and developing team members with the clock in, clock out mentality, because they can't take that ownership that you just referenced. And I reference it all the time, but it's like, an athletic analogy. You send the athletes out on the field and you just say, run harder, play harder, but they don't understand what their actions are contributing to.
Right.
So if we can give them a little bit more of the picture. Now, in doing this, what's important is to understand what is healthy for each role to know, without oversharing, of course, where they can take that ownership. They can apply it to their specific KPIs and their key performance indicators and their reports, their wins, but also to understand what they're currently doing or their current actions aren't working and how we need to pivot to adjust to actually get the deliverables and the results that we are looking for and we're trying to drive. And to really do that at its core, we have to allow them and facilitate our team members to have that ownership. What I like to do, because if we simply just put out a big number and the team feels that's what the doctor's making every month,
right,
that it is a really scary place to be. And that can create a lot of animosity and a lot of resentment and on both sides, because the doctor's upset and angry because the team doesn't understand the full scope of the overhead expenses and those costs. And so just breaking down simple buckets that the team can have control over, like supplies and ordering and inventory, payroll overhead. That is absolutely the staff should be knowing and understanding what payroll overhead is, because they can facilitate and participate in having control over that. If they want to make more, we understand the need to produce more. If they feel they're understaffed, they can understand how that's going to impact the bucket of resources.
If you hire and how that, yes.
That's exactly right. I've facilitated meetings with team members where they've decided and made the choice to actually not bring on additional team members because they would like to work a little bit harder and be able to have a little bit bigger of that.
It's a really powerful understanding for the team members to have.
Yep.
I love that.
It does. That when you talk about the ownership, helping to take ownership, you can do that with the treatment coordinator and the financial coordinator in their specific areas of their role. You can do that with clinician leads that take care of the ordering and the inventory. There's a bucket of resources available for that. They can have control over that as well. You can tie that in with some great goals and bonus structures as well. How can they take ownership of the ordering and the inventory and
the collections and the
absolutely
production.
It's really easy to spend somebody else's money.
What?
But if you can take ownership of that bucket, right, and
Sure.
have control over that, it's really empowering. And the ultimate benefit is that, the doctor sees the results in each individual area, because you've got somebody that's really, really taken that ownership and wants to celebrate, wants to succeed at that translates to the ultimate success for the doctor.
That's great. I like to translate some of the scarier information from the doctors. Oftentimes the doctors don't want to share the overall production for the reasons that you shared.
Yep.
So how do we package that a little bit differently to make this chewable, more bite-sized pieces?
Yep.
I know you and I talk about this frequently. How do we take the production number? How do we determine what that average case fee is for that particular office or practice? And then translating the need and the growth opportunities into perhaps starts.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I was working with a practice one time where, they'd had goals that were never changing. They were always just had been the same for the last 10 years or something. Not the number, but the way they calculated their goals. And they were based on starts only. And we, get to the end of the year, and I was assessing this for them. And I said, you're producing less than you were producing last year. And your team is bonusing because you have not translated what production and starts are doing together. So they were starting more patients and producing less.
So they were working harder, not smarter.
100%. And so we do have to be able to be very wise behind what our recommendations are in the goals for the growth of the practice, and not simply just do by starts. And every practice is going to vary by their average treatment fee. It's going to vary by their treatment modalities and the doctor's treatment preferences and so forth. We also want to be able to provide an opportunity for the team to influence non-contract charges, which is going to increase production.
So what are some of those? Retainer programs?
Retainer programs.
Whitening kits?
100%. So there's a lot of opportunities with that as well. And so it's not just about a start. And, back in the day, a lot of practices just had a minimum, $2,400 or something that would count for a start. Well, a $7,000 start is very different than a $2,400 start
100%.
to the practice. So we have to find that balance and to really understand that. I know you and I, for practices, do a lot of calculations specific and customized to each practice, but it does specifically take their production, their average treatment fees, and we can put together, when the doctor does not want to share that dollar value and information, put together some actual numbers that are going to maintain health for the practice with those goals, so that you are actually growing when you're paying out bonuses for starts.
Well, and that's how you set the team up to be very successful with all of that, right? If they don't know, like you shared in your analogy before, if they don't know where the finish line is, they will never get to the finish line.
Just run harder, work harder, row harder, but what am I doing it for?
Right.
Much easier when you can see that finish line, or what it is. You can really, press on the gas and, give it your all to make yourself succeed and to finish. Not only, cross that finish line, but to cross the finish line first.
So you've shared in a different episode kind of what that bonus goals and how do we keep that? So typically around 60 to 80% or so is where we want our goals to be. If it's less than that, it can be not too lofty of goals, right?
If so the teams, we want the team to bonus about 60 to 80% of the time on average, because I'll build out a little bit on what you were just saying here. If they're not bonusing 60% of the time, our goals might be a little bit too lofty. And now we have to think about that the goals and bonusing are to celebrate going above and beyond.
Right.
This is not organic growth in the practice. We do not recommend and advise treatment coordinators bonusing from the first start.
No.
Because there is an organic number of starts that will happen based on the doctor's reputation, experience, everything. And so they would have those starts whether they had a treatment coordinator or not.
Right.
So the goals and the bonuses should encourage and facilitate going above and beyond and celebrating what that is, because we get paid for doing our job, and that job is going to happen, and that's that compensation. But we want to be celebrated for going above and beyond and growing the business even more.
Because that's where that ownership comes in. If the practice is growing and thriving and I get to contribute to that, how powerful and exciting it is for me as a team member to have that kind of reap that reward or reap that benefit for the part that I played in that process.
I contributed to that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so as we look to what those parts are that we contribute, morning huddles, that's a great opportunity for us to break those down. So now that we have these goals, how do we make them more tangible, right?
Let's talk about the morning huddle.
Okay.
Because this actually just came to mind. I love it, actually sarcastically, when we show up in an office and it's the first part of the month and they say, we are 2 starts out of 50.
Okay.
Right. We're celebrating, where are we? Like month to date on where we are.
On day one.
On day one.
Yep.
Even if it's the first week, we are 7 starts out of 50. That's not energetic. It could be discouraging. It doesn't feel like we're accomplishing anything.
Because that's a big gap.
That's a really big gap.
Right.
And so you don't start to feel really excited until maybe 3.5 weeks in, 4 weeks in, right? So I love to break it down per week. So this week, if we have 40 starts as our goal or a dollar value, break it down to what that is per week. So in the first week or 2, talk to the team and encourage the team to say, hey guys, we're 6 out of 10.
Which is so much more powerful.
And it gives an enthusiasm and an encouragement. It keeps it on the team's radar to just continue to seek out opportunities to meet those additional 4 for that rest of that week and then do it the next week. And so you talk a lot about bite-sized pieces, but it makes it digestible and keeps it really exciting and encouraging for the team. And that's part of what the morning huddle
is all about.
It should be about. Absolutely. Don't just rattle off information where half your team is checked out.
Mm-hmm. And when you chunk it into those bite-sized pieces, we're not rushing to the finish line in week 4.
Exactly.
Because we see that frequently.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot, I'm so far away from the goal now, and now I have to catch up. Whereas if you were managing it weekly, we don't have those stressors at the end of the month.
Well, you just hit the nail on the head. We see a lot of gas being pressed the last week of the month.
So often.
Team members are like, we're almost there, guys. Let's go. And they're really stepping on the gas to make it happen. Think about what it looks like when the team does that weekly. Because they're that close each week to make it happen. And then all of a sudden you get to the end of the month and you've blown past those goals. Absolutely.
Well, and that makes it a full team effort.
Yes.
I know that you and I see this often when you get to that last month. The full weight of that goal falls a lot on the treatment coordinator's shoulders. That shouldn't be the case because it's a full cycle. It starts at your new patient phone call. It translates into your introduction call. It goes into your TC exam, and then how do we facilitate that same day start with the clinic? So it is truly, your starts are truly a full team approach. However, at the end of the month, it can, if we haven't done our bite-sized chunks, it can really fall a lot on the treatment coordinators.
That's a heavy weight to carry,
and
especially when the team is looking to just one person to make that happen. And as a treatment coordinator, we cannot facilitate the same day starts as successfully if we do not have a successful new patient phone call.
Right.
And if we have not had our front desk team, our patient care coordinators facilitate that foundation for a seamless transition into treatment. We've got some great messaging that we've talked about on previous segments around those new patient phone calls that really help do that. But that's really important to facilitate and for every team member to know how they can contribute to that. The chairside technicians can generate additional new patient exams out of a parent.
Oh, yes.
When we are just having that simple dialogue, asking a parent, Mom, do you still wear your retainers? And we can simply start a really comfortable conversation and dialogue that can say, well, if you found out, if your teeth have shifted or moved, we can put your teeth back in the same position they were in when you got your braces off, and just let us know when the time is right for you. We'll take great care of you.
Right.
The very authentic, genuine conversation, and it puts it on the parents' radar that we can be their solution, because hygienists are doing it all the time. I can't tell you how many times I've seen a parent walk in to their child's orthodontic appointment in treatment, in aligners. And the orthodontist looks up and says, oh, you're in aligners. Oh, yeah, I'm doing it with my dentist. It's because it's on the hygienist's radar.
Well, and that creates that powerful ownership on the clinical side of things.
Yes.
Also, to piggyback on that, take a quick scan of the parent. They're already there. Parents are busy, and it takes, less than 5 minutes to take a scan.
It's that visual influence that we have on our parents and on our families. So I know we talk a lot about reports that each team team member should be managing to maintain that high level of accountability and ownership around the financial health of the practice. The financial coordinator reports are really interesting because most financial coordinators report on money, right? And on starts or collections, delinquencies, and so forth. And it's quite interesting what we see behind the curtain in the practices around the financials. And it's not out of a lack of effort by any means. It's not out of malice, but I do feel there's a lot of misunderstanding behind those financials. And there's a lot of mistakes that are had. I think there's too much trust put into the insurance companies.
Oh, they're in it to make money.
Right. And the less they pay us, the more they make. So, when we look at the financial coordinator's role and the commitment to those reports and to those insurance claims, and really not trusting those insurance companies, because we do see a lot at the end of a quarter, specifically at the end of a year. Insurance companies want their margins to look better for their investors. And so we'll see they will have, potentially paid out automatic claims throughout the year and then just stop. So if we don't have eyes on that, and if we're not really, really babysitting that tightly, we won't bring in the revenue that's owed to us. And so don't trust those insurance companies. Make sure that you're getting paid what you're owed.
Well, and that financial coordinator role is so important because we just talked about treatment coordinators and clinicians and how they can produce for the practice. But we all know that just because we produce, it doesn't necessarily mean we're collecting all of that right now. So your collections are trailing your production. The accuracy of running the reports, the frequency that you need to be running the reports, the documentation on what you're discovering or finding out is also really important. How many times do we go into a practice and we're running the patient AR, right? The patient past dues. And, Diana Weaver, the financial coordinator, she knows everything up here.
Oh, gosh.
But we don't have anything in the practice management software to know what are these conversations, what's happening with these conversations. Maybe mom or dad or grandparents have fallen on hard times and they've already reached out. They've already talked to Diana, the financial coordinator, and we want to facilitate maybe a different contract structure. And I didn't restructure the contract, and I didn't put any notes in the comment section.
Or maybe you restructured the contract, but you didn't put any
notes in there to know why.
Right.
So the accuracy of that, also taking ownership as a financial coordinator to help bring in everything that we've already produced on is so vital.
Yeah, the documentation, and I hate to say this, but God forbid if something were to happen and you didn't show up to work that day, we have all of the communication and documentation to be able to just seamlessly pick up that baton and start running, to maintain our high level of patient centeredness in all of our interactions and processes that we facilitate with our patients. And that communication is very, very important that it's documented. In addition, when patients call, I want our patient care coordinators and I want anybody that picks up the phone
to know what's
to
happening,
be able to seamlessly continue with that conversation. And they can't do that if the financial coordinator conversations are not documented properly and thoroughly.
Well, and most people, I would say, myself included, I'm not going to remember some of those conversations either.
Oh, I'm terrible. I have so many sticky
it's
notes.
Here, don't even get me started on
about sticky notes.
Don't talk about sticky notes.
Yeah, I over document for myself on all of my communication, on all of my conversations, tasks, because I'm at that age where the memory is slipping a bit.
Well, I'm not at that age yet, but my memory is still slipping.
So it is that documentation is very, very important.
Well, and also, so to kind of build on that is if I've made an arrangement and maybe this patient is behind in their treatment and I say, oh, you can get caught up. The patient tells me, oh, I'm going to take care of everything on Friday. We're going to get that account caught up. And then I don't have anything written down to be able to follow up. That's just going to slip through the cracks right straight out of the gate again.
Well, our virtual financial coordinator team experiences this every day when we, as we have that ability and that service for clients, and as we are working their patient AR and their insurance AR, and we run across changes or edits or, are in a conversation with a parent and it doesn't align with what the patient remembers or was told, because no notes are made.
Right.
And so this is why, again, to create that seamless highway of communication with our patients and with all of our team members, that's really where we elevate what our practice looks like and how we serve our patients and our accuracy and our thoroughness.
So I'm thinking a whole nother podcast just on the financial collections process would be
go on it for
super great.
Let's do it.
Yeah,
we
let's
could
do
go
that.
on forever.
I know. So let's kind of maybe wrap this up.
Yeah.
We've had some really great takeaways to this particular topic: key performance indicators, reporting processes, making sure that we're communicating what our goals are very clearly, and chunking those out into bite-sized pieces on a weekly basis is going to be really important.
Yeah, ensuring that the goals that are created are healthy for the business and make sense to the team.
Right.
And to simplify them. They don't have to be overcomplicated. They should be customized per practice. It's very important.
Celebrating those wins is what creates the team members to have that ownership mentality and mindset on there. So
energy and enthusiasm.
Yes. So that's a wrap on today's episode. Until next time, stay curious and stay connected between two molars.
Like, share, comment, and subscribe. We want to hear from you, and we look forward to seeing you again very soon between two molars.